Third time is the charm. I'm gonna make this car more efficient using some tape. This is all going wrong. In this week's episode, we're gonna find out just how inefficient this Porsche really is. It's time for an MPG challenge. We've just filled up to the first click. Our challenge now is, how efficient can we drive this 4.5 litre twin turbo 2.5 ton V8? I'm going to set some baseline targets, sort of minimum, acceptable and best case. So minimum, I'm going to say 25. What would be great would be sort of in the sort of 26s, and ultimate best case 30 miles to the gallon. Now I'm going to set that right now. I do not think that we're going to hit 30 miles to the gallon, but I think we're going to try and get as close as we can without hitting, he says, too many traffic lights as the lights turn amber. Now this is what's going to cause the main problem with trying to drive economically, is the stop-start of traffic. So this is going to be mixed roads, mostly fast moving, hopefully no traffic, and I'll confess, this is actually the third time I've tried to record this video. First time I got up to 26 miles to the gallon, but I noticed that the thermostat was starting to act up. The car would sort of get up to temperature fine, but as soon as you're on a long sort of motorway stretch, the temperature would start to drop. And when I did a code scan, it indicated there was an issue with the thermostat, so I had to get that changed. Then I tried to do it yesterday along the A12 and hit a massive amount of traffic, so that completely detonated that plan. Although I did get up to 24 miles to the gallon in a short time period. So this is the third and final attempt at this. If I fail, if I hit traffic, I'm just going to give up on this video and do something else, because filling up this car and doing tests is quite expensive. Don't forget, this has a 100 litre fuel tank capacity, which is copious if you can get a decent mileage out of it. And that's the challenge. Will I? I hope so, because I love this car to bits. Yes, it smells like dog, but it is fabulously comfortable to drive. Just beautiful. I think one of the ultimate cars you can buy. And yes, it's an SUV and it's not an estate, but for what I look in a car, I need something that's powerful, I need something that's comfortable, and I need something that's quirky. And this car meets that bill. I have the Punto for more economical driving. What I'm looking for is for what the Punto cannot deliver me, which is overwhelming power, massive comfort, good space, and the ability to do long distance driving with no issue at all. We've given it a good service. So we've done oil filters multiple times. We've done the air filters, had the spark plugs replaced with OEM items because they were not OEM. I've also replaced the coil packs because they can tend to crack, and it seemed like a good idea. If I want to get the car to be as efficient as possible, it needs to be sparking correctly. So replacing the coil packs seemed a good idea, and they had to come out to do the spark plugs anyway, so it made sense to me to do that. And we've also replaced the thermostat, because that will definitely impact your MPG. If the car doesn't know if it's hot, or it doesn't think it can get up to temperature, if the thermostat is faulty, it will run richer than it needs to, it will burn more fuel, it will just generally be inefficient. And we've also replaced the camshaft position sensor and replaced a bunch of hoses as well. So at this stage, this has had everything, touch wood, that it needs to be ready for this challenge, and generally just ready for the winter to come and hopefully be a very reliable car. We'll see. I've also switched the heating off. I've just switched off the heated seats. The extra load on the engine's electrical system is going to now be kept at a minimum. It's bright enough I don't need my lights. It's not raining, so I don't need my wipers. The AC is off. The heated seat is off. We should hopefully have this car primed for as close to 30 miles to the gallon as possible. And fingers crossed that third time is the charm and I can actually successfully complete this miles per gallon challenge. At the moment we are showing 20 miles to the gallon on the fuel computer. The way this traffic is moving, I'm going to be waiting at these lights for a couple of minutes by the feel of it, and then we are going to be a-okay. He says, he hopes, I don't know. All right, so I'm getting up to a heady sort of 58, 60 miles an hour, nice and relaxed, nice, easy pace, and hopefully we can just sit in and we can just cruise. And one thing, because it's got air suspension, this car is actually, I've lowered it already a little bit, so it's not a big an object to smash the air out of the way. I think the Cayenne is actually quite a slippy car anyway. We're trying to extract every single bit of efficiency out of this car that we can. Put the shock absorbers into sport. That means the car's going to move around less, and that way it's going to be, in my mind, a smaller object on the road. It's not going to hit as much air, and that way it's going to slip through and just be more efficient. All right, we're up to a heady 21.3 miles to the gallon. So other things we need to do, we need to fix a slight boost leak on the driver's side. I think that's a perished hose or something like that. I need to investigate that and see where that leak is coming from. You can tell that when you basically accelerate and get up to boost, there is a whistling noise that comes from the driver's side versus the passenger. It doesn't fully get up to boost anymore, so if all systems were fine, the boost would be 0.8 bar, and it basically gets it to 0.6 something. So that indicates that some boost is leaking away, because it still feels like it's performing well, so I don't think the turbos are on the way out. Gearbox oil service, like I said, and then I need to figure out what's going on with this sunroof. I need to at least inspect the manual opening, which is in the rear, and that way I want to kind of open up the sunroof, clear out all the channels, make sure that it's draining as well as it can, but also just lube up everything and stop a slight sort of squeak that's coming out from the rear. And then that's about it. The garage, when they had some work done, mentioned that the rocker cover gaskets were leaking a little bit. That's pretty much standard on the Cayennes, because the rocker covers can, or the valve covers, depending where you are in the world, can warp over time, and so they can weep a little bit of oil. I'm going to monitor how much oil it is leaking, because it could actually just be the valve covers that warp themselves, and that can be a chunk of change to replace rather than just some gaskets. So I'm going to monitor that for now and see ultimately where we get to with that. But apart from that, I don't think there's much else to do beyond what might crop up as we use this Cayenne more. Might be famous last words, right? 22.1 miles to the gallon, and all is well. I will say, this doesn't prove for very exciting driving. Just trying to anticipate what everyone's doing, making sure I'm not pressing the brake pedal or the accelerator too hard. It's quite taxing, actually, rather than just not really caring about the MPG and just driving as you fancy. Uh-oh, rain. We don't want rain. There's already a bit of a breeze as well, so those are two things that can really impact your MPG. Obviously, if you're going into a headwind, that wind is pushing against your vehicle, it's making it work harder for every meter that the car goes. And then if it's raining as well, you'll need to use your wipers, and obviously that consumes electricity, that puts load on the engine as well. And you'll probably need your lights, so it's a trifecta of inefficiencies. The fuel computer is telling me I've got a 510 mile range though. I've not seen a figure that high for quite some time, even after filling up. So there is that benefit of driving efficiency. It does get you a much larger driving distance, at least in theory. Now what I don't know is more efficient is when I really get cold, because I'm already starting to get a little bit chilly, do I put on the heating or do I put on my heated seat? At least on electric cars, heated seats are always more efficient than the heating. Is that true for ICE cars, for internal combustion engines? That I don't know. All right, so we're coming to the end of the A13, he says, and we're going to get on to the M25, and then we're going to go hook up for a junction and then drive back on the A127. Oh yes, folks, it is the pure excitement of various dull grey roads on this week's episode. But we're showing 23.4, so we're already getting close to my minimum target. I wonder if there's anything else I can do to make this car more efficient. What else can I do? It's already in its lowest position, it's using good quality fuel. Actually, I've got an idea. I'll need to stop at these services. Currently showing 23.5, 20 miles so far, and we've done 23 22.5 miles to the gallon, which means we've almost used a gallon of fuel, which is quite a lot, really. All right, I'm going to make this car more efficient using some tape. So the theory is all of these sort of gaps and stuff is where sort of air can bump up against. So I'm trying to make the front of this car as efficient as possible. And doesn't it look fabulous too? Let's see if that genius idea works out. By putting masking tape on that, I've smoothed out that approach, at least in theory. So fingers crossed that will make the car more aerodynamic. By making it more aerodynamic, it will reduce the wind resistance. By reducing the wind resistance, it will make the car more efficient. Okay, so I've just looked at the traffic. The M25 is looking like a bit of a car park. So I've called an audible, as they say, and I'm gonna go back down the A13. So unfortunately, this detour is going to cost me because it is going to be a little bit less efficient because there's traffic lights and there'll be a bit of traffic as well, but I hopefully will make that up. Plus I've got a more aerodynamic car, so it's going to be automatically more efficient. Man, every time I try and do this MPG challenge, I seem to hit accidents, all that sort of stuff. Maybe that's just the time of year. And every time I change direction, I have to stop and accelerate. That is just taking away from any efficiencies I made. I've now dropped to 22.4. I'm going uphill. This is all going wrong. 22.3. I think we're gonna be able to recover from this. I think. But whatever result is the result we get, I'm not doing this test for a third time. And I'll just give up and I won't do a video for this week. No, cock. I give up. Clearly this test is cursed. This is the third time I've tried to attempt an MPD challenge and this is just ridiculous. Every time. Right, okay. So the challenge becomes, what is the best MPG I can get when stuck in traffic, I guess? Man. Yeah, so this is soul destroying. All that hard work over the previous 20 miles has just started to evaporate like the petrol in my fuel tank. We've gone from 24 down to 21.7 in the space of a mile. Well, the good thing is we'll be back on the road, hitting the M25 in a second. I doubt I'll make these lights, but will I make these lights? Will I? Yes, they are green. I'm committed and I'm across the roundabout. All right, this 10-minute detour has cost me 4 or 5 miles to the gallon, which doesn't sound like much, but in a car that's as heavy as this, that is realistically as inefficient as this car is, you have to work so hard to eke out 23, 24 miles to the gallon that is just devastating. And I've now got to kind of get back up to my minimum targets, but also I've got to then exceed them, and I'm running out of road to do that because I'm gonna get back on the M25 now and start heading back home, and I just don't have that much time. And honestly, at this point, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Hell, it's a Cayenne. I could break down and not make it anyway, but I'm gonna have to bring out all of my skills, meager though they are, on this return journey, because I'm starting at 21.4, which is only just a bit better than after I left the petrol station 26 miles away. I've got to be really, really careful on this one. So I can have no heating, I can't engage the aircon, I need to be efficient, I need to be heads down, I need to make sure that I don't make any mistakes, because any mistakes now, I'm not going to be able to recover. How many miles can I squeak out of this slightly unloved, dog-smelling Cayenne in the next 25 miles? That's going to be the challenge. And it's wet, it's windy. I think I'm going to fail, folks. I'm starting to steam up already because I'm talking. Oh my days, this is such a hard challenge. Who knows, maybe that masking tape, maybe that's going to be the missing element. The things we do, people, the things we do. All right, 21.5. And mostly this has been a big uphill section, so performance isn't going to be particularly good either. Gonna have to get the screen cleaner on. Oh, it's nice to get some heat though. It's getting proper chill. Ooh, a Taycan. That would be nice. Still quite expensive, although they have dropped quite a lot in price. You can now sort of pick up the Salooni Taycan for, I've seen under £50,000, which, don't get me wrong, is still a huge amount of money, but considering where they started from, it's a lot of car for the money. I don't think the Taycan has been terribly successful as Porsche's first EV, although I did see on the news that, on the news, like you watch the news, Tom, I did see on the internet that the Macan EV has just been sighted in pretty much near production spec. I think that will be a lot more successful than a Taycan, because ultimately people just aren't really buying Salooni cars these days. They buy SUVs. They're far more popular, and let's face it, this is the car that saved Porsche. It's not the 911 that saved Porsche. This is the car that kept Porsche alive. And so my expectation is that when the Macan EV comes out, that's going to be very popular. It's also Porsche's second EV. The first generation of any car is always going to be a bit of a learning exercise. I know that the Porsche's had some issues with the heating on the Cayennes and they breaking down, and so people have to wait a long time for parts and stuff like that. I'm hoping that now they've got that first car out of the way, they have a lot more experience on building EVs and ultimately can make the next one more efficient and, crucially, I think for Porsche, more reliable. We're up to 22 miles per gallon. Perfect timing for these lights. Let's just get to swing round. Even that has cost me down to 21.8. Alright, we've got about 20 miles till we get back home. We're up to a heady 22.5 mpg. It's getting dark, it's getting wet. Maybe this is the impossible challenge for the Cayenne. So we're taking this car up to Avalanche Adventures up in the Midlands, and we're going to our first off-road day because, unlike future generations of Cayenne, this was actually built with some reasonable 4x4 capability. I was speaking to the owner last week, and a lovely chap I believe called Robin, and he said this is entirely suitable for novices, which we definitely are. It's got lockable diffs, it's got some form of terrain response, it's got air suspension, it's got good ground clearance. Because what a lot of people have been doing with the Mark 1 Cayenne is turning them into quite capable off-road vehicles. Maybe we could do that with this one. But I have been driving the Cayenne a lot this week because it's going to be sort of a 5-hour round trip plus off-roading. I wanted to make sure that the Cayenne was feeling okay, that it's not going to have any issues, and it's not going to break down. So far this week it's been absolutely perfect. It's a shame that apparently it just consumes petrol at a prodigious rate. But we kind of knew that going into it, folks, didn't we? We knew that even the manual 4.5 struggled to get decent economy, so adding an automatic gearbox and 2 turbochargers makes it very unlikely for this to be a very efficient vehicle. So we're getting close to the start-finish line, which is the petrol station at Tesco's. I think we all know the result of this one. It hasn't done as necessarily as badly as I thought. Bit of a shame. I think without hitting that traffic, I think we would have been close to at least meeting those minimum ones. But I think ultimately, I'm not driving for all that long, and I think the longer I would drive this vehicle, the better chance I have of actually getting out a decent an MPG. Honestly, I think going for sort of almost 50 miles, it just isn't enough. So we're pulling into the petrol station, trying to eke out any last MPG I can. I'm not touching the brakes unless I have to, but I think I'm staring at that number and I don't think it's really going to change all that much. But we are going to put in whatever we can, and that we'll actually see how that compares to the on-screen MPG. We got nowhere close, not even to our minimum targets, and that sucks, and that's a shame because this has been a lot of work to try and do these tests, and it's just not worked out. But hey, that's life sometimes, folks. You don't always get what you hope for. But even still, we managed to get 24, 25 miles per gallon even on a short trip, and that does give me hope that we can get 30 miles per gallon out of this thing in the future. We just need a much longer drive. Maybe we do a big ass road trip in the future. But if you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you consider liking and subscribing, and with that, I'll catch you down the road.